Hey everybody, it's Innovision, and it's been an exciting last few weeks in gaming. So exciting, in fact, we've put together a custom-tailored, hand-picked list of exciting topics to cover with you here today. Do you want to find out what we find to be the most interesting? I know you do, so let's get right to it. So let's talk about that 30th anniversary limited edition PlayStation 5 console. Is it just me, or is everything a limited edition these days? I'm tired of hearing limited edition this and that, but they know how to pull out our heartstrings. So some of the things I like about this console, I love the gray color palette. That's like the obvious thing. I like the colored in PlayStation logo that's on the controller. It matches the original color palette that was on the OG PlayStation 1, so that's really cool. Nice homage to the PlayStation 1 heritage. But this console does not come with a Blu-ray disc reader. It does come with a gray cover to go over the Blu-ray disc reader if you choose to add that later on. So you have to admit that gray color palette is pretty sick. This sends me back to the days when I was playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater or Thrasher Skate and Destroy. It had some really good music in those games and it was a lot of fun. It actually reminds me of this time period when I was in high school. You know, between my buddies and I, we each had like some broken PlayStation 1 console. Disc reader wouldn't work, or the disc tray wouldn't pop open, things like that. So between our 2 or 3 broken consoles, I actually would take them all apart and rebuild them into this like one Frankenstein console, and we could actually use it to play games again. So it is a little bit nostalgic for me. So if I didn't have a PlayStation 5 console and I was in the market for a PlayStation 5 console, I'd probably try to get that one. But what do you guys think? Is this one a cop or a pass? You already have a PlayStation 5 and you're just going to pass on this one? Or you want to get this and add it to your collection? Or you don't even want a PlayStation 5 at all? Now this next story is a heartwarming story. It's about a very wholesome YouTuber at Shirley Curry, the older gamer. So she's known as the Skyrim grandma. She's an 88-year-old grandmother. She's got 4 sons, 9 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. And she's been playing Skyrim and posting YouTube videos about it for about 13 years now. She has like over 1 million subscribers and like over 33 million views. And she just said that she's getting tired of posting videos and she's getting tired of playing Skyrim.
I'm not going to be recording gameplays anymore.
Yeah, it's totally understandable though. Making videos and posting on YouTube is a total grind.
I walk in here and look at my computer and think, I've got to make a video today.
Now look at this sweet old lady. I mean, just look at her. I wish my grandmother played Skyrim. Now look, she's waking up at 4 a.m., making apple pies, making her world famous roast beef in a crock pot recipe in the morning. And then by evening and nightfall, she's slaying demons and dragons. I hope I'm as cool as she is when I'm her age. And then, above all, I can't blame her. I personally find Skyrim very boring myself. I get past the opening part and then I fall asleep. I can't do it. I wish it could be as good as Starfield. So there's been a lot of swirl and discussion lately about the new Nintendo Switch, or the Nintendo Switch 2. That would be the Nintendo Switch successor. Now this update is about a new wireless technology and device that Nintendo filed a patent for with the FCC. And this device is a USB-C device. It's meant to be plugged in and it has a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi radio, but it also has a 24 gigahertz millimeter wave sensor. And so you can, this sensor is used for different motion sensing applications and motion detection applications. And what's really interesting here is, like, why would Nintendo be developing a wireless sensor for detecting motion? Are they working on a new motion controller? The other interesting thing is that it has to be plugged in. So maybe the Nintendo Switch 2 might be getting some motion-based controls, or maybe they just filed the patent and don't even plan to use it, knowing Nintendo. What do you guys think? So here's what I think about that. But before I get to that, let's talk about the Nintendo Alarmo. It's a new alarm clock developed by Nintendo, and it's a truly adorable alarm clock. Any Nintendo fan or Super Mario fan is going to be immediately filled with nostalgia when they see this alarm clock. They'll be filled with nostalgia and good vibes. I do think spending $100 on an alarm clock is a bit excessive though. And once the alarm clock goes off, if you stay in bed too long, the sounds will start intensifying. Dun-na-na-na-na-na, dun-na-na-na-na-na, dun-na-na-na-na-na. I don't need that kind of stress in my life. Anyways, the alarm clock will keep going off until you get out of bed, but it does have gesture detection and motion detection. Perhaps this 24 gigahertz millimeter wave technology made it into this alarm clock so that it can sense you while you're sleeping. Time will tell. Once you get out of bed, the alarm clock will play some fanfare music like, "Congratulations, you lousy bum, you got out of bed." Now, I know this alarm clock would definitely not work for me. I need to ease into the day. What do you all think? Now, I know you've been eyeing my toy of the day. What we have here is Skeletor on his Throne of Havoc. Feast your eyes on this, but don't get too close. It's mine. I love the green flame. You can't really see it, and I'm not taking him off the throne because it's a pretty ordeal to put him on there. But he's got a pelt made out of fur that he's sitting on. Now that is wicked. It's got the skull and bones on the throne, and he's got his ram staff. I mean, this is just sick. This is made by Mattel Toys. I ordered it from Big Bad Toy Store. I pre-ordered it, and I got it maybe a month or two ago. So I finally got around to putting it together. You know, it's something you do when you don't have power for 7 days. So I was able to brush my teeth by the light of Skeletor's throne. So let's take a moment and talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro. They just announced it a few weeks ago. So it does have an eye-watering price tag, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So the Pro version of the PlayStation 5 is supposed to have nearly 30% faster memory. Now that's actually pretty exciting because the PlayStation 5 has a system on chip design where the GPU, graphics card, and the processor share the same memory. So having faster memory will enhance the GPU operations, but also should help with, you know, load times or loading of your textures and things like that. So long as the hard drive can sustain that. Some other features that the PlayStation 5 Pro is supposed to bring to the table is enhanced ray tracing. It's supposed to be capable of 8K gaming, which is incredible. I mean, I don't know how many people actually have an 8K TV out there. I don't know if it's going to be something that we're going to start seeing more of these on the horizon. I think it might be a little premature, but it will have AI upscaling technology. We've seen some upscaling technology in some of our handheld gaming devices, like the Legion Go and the ROG Ally. We've seen the FSR2 and FSR3, which is the driver-based upscaling. But I think FSR4 is supposed to be the first one that's using AI upscaling. And so this is going to be something that's going to be meant to compete with NVIDIA's, deep learning, super sampling, AI upscaling. And so this is interesting. So I suspect that the PS5 Pro is going to have something similar. If it's not FSR4, it might be some homebrewed version of it that's through the collaboration of Sony and AMD. The other things that the PS5 Pro has, it will have a Wi-Fi 7 chipset, which Wi-Fi 7 is still very expensive today, but it will have a 2 terabyte SSD installed by default, which is kind of nice. And they are saying that it will remain backwards compatible, so you can still enjoy your PlayStation 4 games. Can we please get a remaster of Bloodborne? This console will not come with the Blu-ray drive. That's pretty bad, given that the price tag is $700. Now I know that price tag is hard to digest for the PS5 Pro, but it is somewhat justified given that it's going to have similar performance to an RTX 4070 when it comes to graphics and graphics capabilities. So here we're taking a look at some screenshots of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth played on a PlayStation 5, followed by it being played on a PlayStation 5 Pro. And this comes from Sony's blog. Now, one thing to keep in mind as we look at these images, one thing you'll notice is that the PS5 images are a little bit more blurry, have less detail in them, and they're a little bit more fuzzy, whereas the PS5 Pro images have a lot more detail, the image quality is a lot more sharp. This is like comparing 1080p image quality versus 4K image quality in PC gaming. And so it really is a good demonstration of the raw power here. So, I mean, I get it. To build a gaming PC that has a RTX 4070 graphics card would easily be double the price of a PS5 Pro. So I don't think the price tag's too bad when you consider that. Me personally, I would find more utility in another gaming PC, even if it's a low-end one. I don't play too many PlayStation exclusives. You know, Bloodborne and Demon Souls are kind of the two games that I would play on my PS5 right now anyways. And so there's not really a compelling argument for me to invest in that ecosystem at this time. So we could build an entry-level gaming PC for the same price point as a PS5 Pro. So here's an example shopping cart we put together. So here's our shopping cart of our entry-level gaming PC. And so one thing to keep in mind here, if you pick out the right kind of components, you know, get a decent motherboard and a good power supply, you can upgrade the system anytime you want in the future, as long as the motherboard specs and power supply specs aren't changing too much. And so in this shopping cart, we've got 32 gigs of RAM, we've got a Zen 5 APU, and I really like this power supply because it's a fully modular 750 watt power supply. So you only need to use cables for devices that are going to require power, and so you can keep good airflow in your case. And so where the specs are somewhat modest, you know, the APU is not the fastest CPU you can get for a gaming PC, but the reason why I picked an APU here is we don't have a discrete graphics card yet in the shopping cart, and so we can use the APU to still play games. It should play several games 1080p without too many difficulty. It's not going to play the latest flagship AAA games. It's going to be comparable to a handheld gaming PC in terms of the graphics capabilities here, but it does have 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, and we've only got the 1 terabyte of storage here. So, you know, if this were me and I was actually going to build this computer, I would, you know, start with this and then probably 6 months to a year later add a discrete graphics card and bump up the storage. And this motherboard has 3 or 4 NVMe SSD slots, so you could actually keep the base drive that we already have in the shopping cart and then just add another one later. This is the way I like to do things. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. You can kind of do it incrementally. And what's interesting about the Zen 5 APU is the Z2 Extreme chipset that's going to be used in the Lenovo Legion Go 2 and the ROG Ally 2 is based on the same APU. The key difference between the one that's in our shopping cart right here and the Zen 2 Extreme chips is that the Zen 2 Extreme chips have these power performance cores. And so it's going to have 3 full-size Zen 5 cores and 5 of these performance cores, and they're 20% smaller, and so that's intended to help with power performance. So one thing that I've been seeing, you know, last several weeks, there's a lot of reviews dogging the Zen 5 APU. One of the things we all have to keep in mind is that it takes time to optimize software and drivers for new hardware. And so right now, you know, they're just running these benchmarks and tests on Windows in the current software that we have today. I don't think that's a fair test. These are things they're definitely going to have to fix before they ship the Z2 Extreme. And here's the reason why. The Z2 Extreme is said to cost twice the price of the Z1 Extreme to source the component to build your handheld gaming PC. And so what that means is that these handheld gaming PCs, the price are going to be also in the eye-watering price range. And so I think what's going to happen is we're going to still have our Z1 Extreme chipset based handheld gaming PCs, and they're going to be considered like mid-tier or mid-grade handheld gaming PCs, and then the high-end ones, which are going to be based on the Z2 Extreme, are going to be considered the high-end stuff. And so I wouldn't be surprised if those are going to be between $800 and $1,000 price point once they ship, unless the manufacturers and the vendors are going to be able to bring the cost down by shipping a large quantity of these things. So I mean, there's several knobs you can turn when you do this kind of thing. Thanks for joining us as we went over some of the most exciting events going on in gaming over the last few weeks. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, tips, tricks, and mods.